This is 9/11 Freefall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of 9/11 Freefall. I'm your host, Andy Steele. My guests tonight are going to be Stu Nelson and Pat O'Connell. They're two great activists out of Texas, part of the local action groups teams being formed all around the country for AE 9/11 Truth, getting the word out, spreading the information about the three towers that fell in New York on 9/11, the fact that those buildings were brought down in controlled demolitions that day. They're going to be talking about some of the stuff that they do to raise awareness in their area, how you out there can start your own local action group, get some advice from them, contact them for more information, and just essentially how you create that resistance, how you throw yourself against the gears of the machine and keep it from running. Do whatever you can to wake up your fellow man. That's what the show is all about. That is what this movement is all about. 9/11 Truth. Because, as I say in this interview, 9/11 sits as the nucleus, the bullseye, at the center of many of our problems right now. And if we can expose the truth about what happened to those buildings on that day, we can pull the rug right out from under many of these issues that are filling up our headlines every day in the newspapers and on the internet blogs. So stay tuned. I'll be playing that interview for you in just a minute. Before I do play that for you, we're going to do what we do every week. We're going to take our 10 seconds of silence to remember the victims of 9/11 and their families and all the people who died in the wars that followed 9/11. We're going to do that beginning now. And that's 10 seconds.
The views expressed on this show by guests and the host on issues outside of the 9/11 controlled demolition evidence are the opinions of those individuals alone and do not necessarily reflect those of architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth.
Stu Nelson is an independent Texas business owner and fundraiser who has been an activist since long before 9/11. Today he serves with his wife Pat as Oil Patch Regional Coordinator for the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth National Organizing Team. Pat O'Connell is with him. She's a professional writer, training developer, and process and management consultant for high-tech companies worldwide. She's also the author of 2 women's health books and several techno-thriller novels. Guys, welcome to 9/11 Freefall.
Hey, great to be on. Thank you for having us.
So starting with Stu, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I've been a remodeling and new construction guy for years. All kinds of different business ventures and stuff like that I've always tried to do. And trying to make a living, get ahead, save some money, take a vacation, live life normally and not be too stressed out and enjoy life. And then 9/11 happened and Waco happened and kind of changes your life.
Absolutely, and that is the philosophy to take too, folks. Just try not to be stressed out, try to do what you can to change the world, and that's what we're here for, is to do the right thing in life. Pat, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, Andy. I've been a professional writer and business consultant and marketing person for 30 years, and in fact, I've just, as of this year, am trying to transition into doing work that I love and that is meaningful, as opposed to client projects that, yes, they bring in some money, but do they really make any difference? And so, as of this year, I've transitioned a lot into working with A&E and also a business that Stuart and I are both involved in that gives people a discount on services that they're already using. And so our idea is that we want to use that business as well to help other people in the movement to make money while they're doing their activist stuff, because a lot of times most of the activists are broke, and so we're trying to put those pieces together. So one of the things that I'm working on as well is trying to do more things that make a difference, and one is something that Stu and I did last year, is teaching critical thinking. We sorely need critical thinking skills in our schools, and we did a program. It was a wonderful program, 4 days with kids 6 to 12 years old, teaching them critical thinking in various workshops, and we had a blast. And so we've been asked, can we dumb it down for grown-ups? So we're working on those kinds of things. So that's kind of the snapshot for me. My work is now hopefully going to evolve into doing more meaningful things that ideally also make money.
Thinking about thinking, that is something that we need to do more of in this country. Maybe analyze ourselves and wonder why we have these snap reactions after being happily apathetic to what's going on in the country, and then something happens and all of a sudden everybody wants to turn an entire other country into a quote-unquote a parking lot and then go back to being apathetic. So I think that is something that is a great service that you guys are offering to this nation. And, of course, critical thinking is at the heart of what AE 9/11 Truth is about, presenting the scientific evidence, keeping emotion out of it, just looking at what the facts are, and simply calling for a new investigation into what brought down those three towers on September 11th, something that we've been asking about for years, that the 9/11 victims' family members have been asking about essentially since they had that investigation, or so-called investigation by the 9/11 Commission. And then, of course, by the NIST reports, too, which if anybody listened to last week's episodes and has listened to the 9/11 Freefall episodes over the past 3 years, they know that there's problems with that investigation as well. So we need a real investigation, a transparent one, something that is going to be able to withstand basic scrutiny and basic critical thinking, which you guys are teaching people to do. So I want to know from each of you, starting with Stu, how did you wake up to this issue, to the 9/11 controlled demolition evidence?
Well, I was living in Austin, Texas. I was sitting on the couch waiting on a weather report. I was going to pour concrete that day. Well, the news is on, and then all of a sudden, bang, slam, all of a sudden they switch to the World Trade Center towers, and I see the second plane fly into Tower 2, and they showed it over and over and over and over and over again, and I sat there and staring at it in shock. I've been to New York City. I've stood there at the World Trade Center towers and looked up at them. Wow. Anyway, and so I watched that plane hit, and watched it over and over and over and over and over again, and I said, that's a military jet. That's not what they're saying it is. And well, then it kind of slipped my mind when the towers fell, and I was just like, that's impossible. I don't understand that. But I'm in shock. Thinking about New York City building a World Trade Center towers that could just get knocked down by a plane. New York City steel workers letting that happen, and architects. Anyway, so as it passed on, the next day, I'm thinking, well, oh my gosh, there's going to be some heads rolling on this deal. President of the United States is going to be, he's going to be arresting some people, and some people are going to pay for this. Well, it turned out, of course, as we know, well, nobody got punished for anything. 18 agencies completely failed that day, and nobody got in trouble. And so that's what woke me up the most, is when I saw George Bush and Dick Cheney and the Joint Chiefs of Staff and everything at the Pentagon, heads of the FBI, CIA, and all that, kind of standing in a big circle, and they were kind of, they didn't have any sad, glum faces or anger. They were kind of had a sparkle in their eye and were giving it the thumbs up and patting each other on the back. So that's when I said, oh no, oh my God, they did it. And then the memory came back on the planes that I saw. So that's basically how I woke up, and I've been running with my hair on fire a lot since then, like everybody else. anybody listening to this podcast has done an enormous amount of work to try and get the truth out there, to try and keep the message fresh. I can't think of anything more important personally. I can't think of anything more important than 9/11 truth. And because when you open up to that, everything for me started beginning to unfold like I'd never seen before. So,
what was it about AE 9/11 Truth's evidence that got you behind wanting to support this organization so much?
Well, I remember back in, I don't know, it was 2006, I guess they started, 2004. It was that actual architects and engineers that understand the building and construction and design these things. I mean, they don't design them where they're just going to fall down. They have to have integrity. They're passionate, concerned, smart people. And so if they say, you know, that they had the background and the training and the education to be able to say the official report, the official findings or whatever, the fake investigation that we had was a fraud. So, which I knew it was anyway. I protested Thomas Keane when he came to Georgetown, Texas, and was put in the free speech zone, which is another clue. But that's, with A&E, they got the integrity. They've got the education, and they've got the momentum. So I'm jumping on board with them, and I was involved with them back then too. But when they first started and bought their stuff and all that, but handed out pamphlets but that's why, because they've got the education, they've got the knowledge and the science to be able to give the details on how the official story is a fairy tale.
Pat, tell us your 9/11 day of story, how you woke up to the 9/11 controlled demolition evidence, and why you're so passionate about it now.
Well, I was one of those that believed the official story for a long time, and I'm embarrassed to say that because I'm an analytical, very rational, logical person. And essentially a skeptic. And so, that means that I challenge everything. I should have challenged the official story. But I had this nagging feeling about the Pentagon. It wasn't the Twin Towers, it was the Pentagon, that something didn't feel right. But for years and years, I didn't pay attention to that. And of course I had, I was already an activist in other ways. I knew that money corrupted our government, and that we were being driven as a people to hate and fear each other and be divide and conquer. I knew that was going on, and I was trying to fix that, but I hadn't really looked at the evidence from the other side on 9/11. The people around me some of them were truthers, and they were pounding on me, and to some extent they were too aggressive. And so it kind of turned me off. But I kept saying I should look at this video. I should follow that link. I should look into it. I should. And I didn't. But part of it was because I couldn't imagine why anyone would do such a horrible thing. And so it wasn't until I saw a presentation, heard a presentation at a group that we both belonged to, about the Federal Reserve. And I know everybody has their own story about what tipped them off, but it was, for me, understanding how the money works and following the money trail. And so once I understood the Federal Reserve and how it has gotten its tentacles into every aspect of our lives and controlling everything about our country, then the dominoes started to fall. And then I read Naomi Klein's, Stuart and I both read, the shock doctrine, and it's about disaster capitalism. So those two pieces, together with the concept of false flag attacks, opened my eyes to why, the cui bono, who benefits. And once I understood that, all the dominoes started to fall. And then I saw how thin my defense of the official story had been, how weak it had been. And, then I started looking at the pancake theory. And, of course, they abandoned that. And so then the official story became the pile driver theory. And so listening to the A&E, the architects and engineers experts, just described the simplest principles of physics and explained that, if this were the pile driver theory, if this were true, then we'd need this horrible mass pounding down on those twin towers to break them down. And the math and the physics just didn't work. The towers, and especially Building 7, came down too fast, too easily, considering that all the rest of the floors were undamaged. And so all of that kind of started the ball rolling, and then since then my eyes have opened in retrospect to a lot of other things that I hadn't really seen before.
Physics, the laws of physics don't make mistakes on any day, even 9/11, and physics did not stand down, so we got to assume that physics, the laws of them were in effect, and 105 feet of free fall in Building 7 is impossible unless you have preset explosives helping it along. So you guys woke up to that. And something that I've said on this show so many times in the past is how I laugh when I watch these movies in which there's some kind of government plot or just plot in general by a big cabal, and the hero, all he has to do is get the information to the press or get it to the president, and when he gets it to the press, it's broadcast out to everybody, and everybody wakes up to it, and it's a happy ending. And I guess a lot of people were naive in the beginning, thinking that all we had to do was get it to the media, and the media would do the right thing, but we've seen that it has not done the right thing. It takes agitating to even get this covered in the corporate media. So I want to get both of your take just on your reaction to the media's reaction to the 9/11 truth evidence, and I guess what you think of it. We'll start with Stu.
Well, I'd say Dan Rather kind of called it out and said, boy, it looks just like a controlled demolition. One of those things, so a little bit, right at first, news, I guess that's the thing, we got to catch the news right at first. And, people on the street saying, yeah, they heard explosions and all that. So, but then they come in and they, of course, spin it and cover it up and ignore and obfuscate and all that stuff. So, but right at first, I think we got some reality there. And that's some of the keys. And then, of course, who was it? The Nade brothers were filming the talking to the firefighters there and all that, and and seeing those, the firemen saying, floors were popping out. As far as the media, they're controlled. There's 6 corporations that control 90% of all television, radio stations, everything. So. We've got it is what it is, and we've got an alternative media. More and more people are turning off mainstream media. I haven't watched Fox News or CNN in years, and now it turns, when I'm working on a job and somebody's got that television on with the Fox News or whatever, I mean, it's offensive, when you hear that stuff. So, anyway, that's my feedback. I think we got some good coverage right at first, and then they came and they spun it all. So,
what do you think about the media, Pat?
Well, I agree, and we do need to watch for those moments when the mass media is unguarded. Something that upsets me is that they're phasing out DVD recorders where you can record off the TV. And actually take a physical disc out and remove it so that you have evidence of these things that were reported in the early moments, in the early hours of things like this, that are now being disappeared from various media outlets. But what I look at is that we've got a situation where in our environment we're suffering from too much information. We've got the internet. Media is not just TV and radio now. It's the internet, and all the other communication channels through your phone and that sort of thing. And that's another reason why we so desperately need critical thinking, because people are exposed to all kinds of information, much of which is garbage. And so first of all, you have to have the mental capacity to sort the junk from the good stuff. And then even from the good stuff, that's overwhelming. So we have to have some kind of ability to sort through that and then say, I'm not going to look at this, and I am going to look at these other things. And I personally believe that the powers that be are, we know that they're controlling the media. We know that they're using the politicians to spin out the stories they want us to hear and the sound bites they want us to repeat. And so we're conditioned not to think. And social media is anything but. We get on those sites and our thinking goes in circles. We never are able to explore a subject in depth or talk to each other about to find out what we really have in common, because on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, we're taught what to think, not how to think.
Right, we're taught what to think. And so we get on Facebook and we start having a conversation with, faceless people that are out there, and we get 3 steps down in an argument trying to dissect a particular issue, and then a new person pops in and says, what about this that we already talked about 3 steps before? And so we get in this loop where we never think deeply. So I believe that all of these human frailties are being exploited by the powers that be. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind. We know that they were using propaganda and mind control techniques, back in the 50s and 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. MK Ultra was exposed. So we know that those things didn't disappear. They've just gone underground. So they're using the best minds and experts in all of these fields of propaganda and persuasion and manipulation and hypnosis and subliminal techniques and all that kind of thing. So it's a huge challenge for us to break free of the manipulation that's being done to us through the media, and it's a real challenge.
I couldn't agree with you more on the state of communication right now in the not just the United States, the entire world, because this is a worldwide phenomenon. I remember in college when you wanted to go talk to someone, you either picked up the phone, but generally you didn't do that. You didn't pick up that phone with the cord hanging, from the side, connecting it to the buttons. You actually got up, knocked on someone's door, and you went and hung out in their dorm for a while. That was college life. If you wanted to go to type up a paper or go on the internet, you went to the computer lab, and that thing closed at midnight. So, yeah, you better find something else to do with your night after that. And now it's completely different. I live here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I go to the BART station, and it looks like some kind of piece of modern art where everybody's kind of standing there, but they're staring at their little phones, staring down at them. I heard a comedian making a joke about children's dance recital and how the kids will look out from the stage, and every parent looks like they're in the witness protection program with the bars over their eyes because they're holding a phone over their face and watching it through a little screen. I don't think this can be healthy. I'm not some psychology expert, and I haven't deeply analyzed it that much, but I just don't think this entire way of being right now is very healthy. And I do see that there's a lot of information put out there, particularly about 9/11, because this is my area of focus, that is complete bunk. And I think sometimes that it's purposely put out there. Stuff about no planes hitting the towers, silly nonsense like that, designed to confuse the issue, to sway people into dead ends, and not to actually look at the real scientific evidence of controlled demolition on that day. Just keep everybody confused, make it a big jigsaw puzzle where people have varying opinions, get into different camps, and nobody just focuses on what is provable and can be used to put pressure upon the powers that be to do something about this. So you are absolutely right. So you guys are out there doing activism, spreading the word, doing what this country needs more people doing. I want you guys to talk about that. Talk about your local organizing with the action groups in your area, and essentially just start from the basics. How did you guys form it? What were some of the first things that you guys did?
Okay, sure, yeah, and I wanted to throw in something, if I can, on the media deal. That we've got a lot of people that, like you say, they're just on the phone, they're just on their, you walk into a restaurant, and there's a family of 6, and they're all talking to each other on their mobile phones, and but another thing is the YouTube deal. I mean, you can get just about anything you want on 9/11 Truth. You can get some real garbage as well, but people need to think that we need to get out there and engage. If you know about 9/11, and that's one thing I'm trying to get people to do locally is, and Pat and I both are, engage. You don't need to sit around and watch YouTubes all day. Let's get the word out. Let's get start a meeting once a month, twice a month, whatever. Do something to engage people and get them, let them see that we're distracted, we're controlled. The media teaches us what to think, not how to think. They teach us what to think about certain issues. And they just lie over and over and over and over again. And, it's all programming. That's why they call it TV programming. And so on our activist stuff, what we're trying to get done is we want to get boots on the ground. We want to, get a groundswell. I'm familiar with it. We have a couple of groups of attorneys for 9/11 Truth, and the thing that they keep stressing and saying is we need the masses out there. I think we've got the numbers. But people are distracted, and they're having to work 2 jobs because, the powers that be have arranged it and coordinated it that way. And they print the money. They go to MIT and Stanford and Harvard and all those places, and they give the brightest and best a well-paying job, and they go to work in the mind control sector. So if we get people out, active, taking action, handing out DVDs, plugging in with A&E, they have the momentum. If we can get people to just stop and let's look at what we have more in common rather than what we disagree about. So that's kind of a lot about simply about what Pat and I are trying to get done, and we're starting meetup groups in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We've got one going, we're about to have 2 going in the Austin area, trying to get Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana as well. Anyone that's listening to this, if you're in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, contact us on tx911truth.us. tx911truth.us and contact us. We've got to get boots on the ground. We've got to get, simple little actions taken. It's and plus you can be around people that aren't brain dead. So what we're also trying to do is, when I mentioned that there's this huge volume of information out there. A lot of it's garbage, a lot of it's good, but it's still very, very hard to navigate. So what we're trying to do, in addition to actually putting our groups together, meeting and developing actions that we can do and events that we can do to draw more people in, to wake more people up, what we're trying to also do is simplify the message, because too much information can make people short out, even if it's good information. And so we're trying to find ways to tame that, trying to parse the information, find out where people are in the spectrum of awareness, and then pick up from where they left off. What do they already know? And then move them to the next step. Teach them the next piece of the puzzle. And if they're not awake at all, we need to have ways to just kind of introduce them to this subject in small bites that they can manage. And that's one of the things that's so great about the architects and engineers
approach is that they are keeping the message simple. They're keeping it to only what we can prove. Controlled demolition, 3 towers collapsed in New York, and in a sense, that idea that we're just asking for a real investigation and telling people we never got a real investigation. We didn't even get an amateur investigation on the worst travesty that's ever happened to the United States on our homeland. And so people don't even have to let go of the official story in order to start looking at the fact that, we didn't get a real investigation. And then once they look at the facts and see that, one of the things that I find most persuasive is that it's not considered World Trade Center dust, 9/11 dust, unless it has the traces of explosives in it. So, just giving them these little pieces, and then they can't help but move forward from that to, if it was controlled demolition, then the official story doesn't really hold water. And so one of the things that we're doing, one little technique that we're asking our folks to do, we call 7 by 7. And that idea is just to talk to somebody, commit to talking to somebody every single day, 7 days a week, about Building 7. And you can just drop it into a conversation very casually. Oh, yeah, that's as obvious as the Building 7 on 9/11 being controlled demolition, or whatever it happens to be. It's a very subtle way to drop it in. And part of the effectiveness of that is to remove the stigma of talking about 9/11 and questioning the official story, because that's part of the problem. It's not even allowable to talk about it, and so people, they're afraid to say anything. And so if it becomes something that you're just hearing all the time and, everybody knows it, it's the popular thing to know, or whatever it is, that will help. And also, it simplifies the message. One of the things that Frances Shore, she's a psychologist who wrote a series of fabulous articles that are on the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth website. She mentioned the signal-to-noise ratio. And anytime we're talking to somebody, we're competing for their attention against 1,000 other things, including thoughts in their head, responsibilities they have to take care of right now, other messages that they've been hearing, fears that are coming from deep down inside their psyche. And so that's another reason why we need to keep our message as simple as possible, and that's another reason why Architects and Engineers message is so useful and beneficial to move people from just get them off the dime to open their eyes and get them thinking about questioning the official story.
Yeah, there is a lot more to 9/11, of course. There's a whole lot more to 9/11 than just controlled demolition. But for people to wake up, most people don't even know, as you know, and as anybody listening to this podcast knows, most people don't even, building what? And there's your first foot in the door. And so that's another reason why we really like A&E's perspective and keep it simple and like Pat was saying. So.
Well, what I like and what I find that works is just how reasonable the request is. Simply for a new investigation, forget who did it or who you think did it. NIST left out critical features of the building that, when you include them, makes their analysis impossible. So why not just rerun the analysis with these features included, do a new investigation to address all of the controversy around it, and put an end to it? And I think most reasonable people, your average Joe, would sign on to that. Say, yeah, I'm for that. I even had a person, a debunker on this show, and after debating for a while, he still agreed that they should rerun the analysis with the critical features in. So, I mean, essentially, in a kind of roundabout way, he still agrees with us. That's someone who should sign the petition. And so this is the most reasonable way to approach it. And what Pat and Stu are talking about is, I've heard it, the best analogy to it is somebody coming out of a dark room. Let's say you've been in a dark room for 5 days, right? When you come out into the light blinds you. You keep your eyes closed because it hurts your eyes to look at. So you just kind of open your eyes a little bit, like little slits to let the light in slowly, and slowly adjust to it. And that's sort of what the general public needs to do with this issue. You start with the reasonable argument of needing a new investigation because the original investigation into the building destructions was flawed and doesn't make sense. And then you let the chips fall where they may. Have that real investigation and see where it leads. People have varying theories on why they think 9/11 happened, who did it. Well, starting at the central nucleus of having an investigation into the building destructions will open that up, and it will get at the truth. And that's why AE 9/11 Truth needs your help. That's why this is the way to get your foot in the door, like our guests are saying. And that's why we appreciate the work of folks like yourselves, all sorts of people over the United States who are helping out with their local action groups. So in your area of the country, which I enjoyed driving through, by the way, a few months ago. It was my favorite states to pass through, Oklahoma and Texas. How can people join you? How can people get in touch with you guys and help out?
Well, we've got the best thing to do is just get on our website, tx911truth.us, tx911truth.us, and we've got contact information there. We're not trying to be an information, how do you say,
we're just kind of a clearinghouse.
Yeah, a clearinghouse, and we've got a few videos on there, and links, but we're not trying to be the information supplier. What we're trying to do is get people to plug in. That's the best way to reach us. We've got email, tx911truth@gmail as well. But that'll, if you're in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, but even if you're not, on the A&E website, you can click on one of the top tabs there and get engaged. I think it
volunteer,
says
maybe.
Yeah, volunteer, and you can find regional groups in your area. Contact those people, and they'll get back to you. We need to get boots on the ground and find a local regional group leader that you can plug in with and that you can communicate with, and find out what together what we can do to make a difference for all the victims of 9/11, not including the people that had to make a decision to jump out of the window on 9/11, and the firefighters and the EMTs and the police and the rescue workers that were there that were murdered. Much less all the other millions of people that have been bombed into oblivion all over the Middle East that had nothing to do with it and didn't even know about it. Go ahead.
So one of the things that we're doing, and we've got a meetup, we've got Facebook, we're shorthanded, we're still looking for volunteers, but the most important thing that we're looking at, we've got two different audiences. We've got people who are already awake, who are probably listening to this, and we need to get them engaged, get them started going to meetings or leading meetings, and learning more so that they can go out and wake up more people. But the other critically important thing is to just bring in more and more people and look at ways to do a petition drive to get more, have an opportunity to talk to more people, or if there's an event that is providing some good information, a good speaker or a video or whatever it is, each one of us who's awake needs to commit to bringing, say, 2 people who aren't awake. We have to make a personal commitment every time to bring in these new people, not just, we're doing a petition signing, but every time there's an event, every time there's a meeting, whether it's once a week or once a month or whenever, you have to go beat the bushes and bring in, say, 2 people who aren't awake.
So many things that you guys were saying previously that I agree with. You got to take it out to the streets. You don't want, my laptop in front of me right now is about 14 inches, the screen. I don't want to just have a 14-inch free speech zone on the internet here where I can talk on Facebook with the 200 other people about how the buildings in New York were brought down in a controlled demolition and keep it within those 14 inches. I want to take it out into the streets. I want people out there with clipboards, 60s style. Let's bring it back. All right, out there with clipboards, taking down names, signing people up for the AE 9/11 Truth newsletters we so that we can keep them informed.
We're looking at branching out to other groups. We're on Meetup. We hope people will find us on Meetup and come to our meetings and our events. But we're also looking at going to other meetups, finding other groups that are, into sustainable living or, outside the box topics or even political groups, and go to their meetings and find out what their mission is, what we have in common, support them if we can, and then at some point maybe we become a presenter on their schedule and we invite them to our meetings. So it's important that we don't just sit in our little mud puddle and hope people are going to come see us. We have to get out and go to other people's things and see what they're passionate about, and then support them and then exchange support.
Yeah, you're right. And if you're part of a peace group, right, or if you're part of a local liberty group, or if you're part of your local NAACP chapter, right, along with being awake to the 9/11 controlled demolition evidence, there's no reason you can't play both teams here, because they're not competing teams. We're all on the same side here, on the side of humanity. And try to use your connections to get the AE 9/11 Truth controlled demolition evidence presented to those groups. We need as many people as we can to help out. All hands on deck here. We're going to save America, and we're going to get into the relevance to this modern day in a few minutes here. I just want to know, from your own perspective and your own experience, what if somebody is in what I would call an underserved area? We'll use an insurance term here. An area where there's not a local action group yet, but they want to start one. How can they go ahead and do that?
Well, I'd say get on the A&E website and click on the volunteer. I can't remember what link it is, but you can click around some links there, and you can find local, regional people. I would say contact them. If you're in Podunk, Arkansas, or whatever, let's contact your regional director and us. We'll help you, or just get on tx911truth.us and we'll direct you somewhere.
Right, that's right. If you're anywhere, if you contact us through our website, we've got we're posting our local meetings and events, or our regional meetings and events. But if anybody contacts us from somewhere else, we'll send you to the right people. In fact, we have names on our architects and engineers contact list where people have called to or have signed up to support and signed the petition. And we may contact them and call them, and it turns out they're not in our region at all. They're in another region, and we just hand them off to the next regional coordinators because a lot of times these people are very enthusiastic and eager to help, eager to join with a group, and didn't know there was organizing happening. So that's another thing we need to spread the word about, that there are groups, and that if there isn't one near you, as you said, in an underserved area, I bet we can put a group together. We had an impromptu meeting in Tyler, Texas last 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
And we thought we were going to have 2 people, and it turns out that those 2 people were connected with a constitutional group, and we ended up with a huge Whataburger restaurant full of people. So you never know who you're going to find if you just reach out.
Another thing is get on the A&E website and find A&E needs help. If there's something you got 5 minutes or you got an hour a week, or they need help. Pat's just joined on to help vet there's like 300 architects and engineers that haven't yet been able to sign up on with A&E because they need to be vetted, make sure that they actually have the degrees and all that stuff. And there's 25 of them a week coming back in. And then we've got international. I mean, people are waking up all over the place. People have known it for a long time, and they're finally deciding to get involved. They're seeing what's going on in the Middle East and Syria. This hunger to attack Iran, this hunger for war. Of course, you and I, anybody listening to this podcast probably knows what that's all about. But people are waking up. They're starting to see that madness is in control of the planet, and so if you're in Podunk, Oklahoma, if there's a sports radio show, or you can do what Andy Steele did and call in these radio shows and say, what do you guys care about the Oklahoma Sooners when we're at war in 5 countries all over the world? We're bombing everybody on the face of the planet. Right, Andy?
Yeah, you insert it wherever you can. In fact, break the propaganda. I have no moral issue whatsoever when someone's on there pushing xenophobic reactions to incidents and pushing some kind of expansion of the post 9/11 foreign policy, which we know what that kind of has amounted to. I have no problem with inserting some truth in the middle of it, because what you do is you're spray painting the words "Remember Building 7" all over the current message, and you're reminding the audience. I don't care about the guests that you're addressing, because chances are they're making their bread and butter pushing whatever they're pushing, and you're not going to sway them. Even if you have, they're not going to admit it. What you're concerned about is the audience. That's the three-dimensional effect of this kind of outreach. So you're spray painting the words "Remember Building 7" all over their message. You're reminding the audience that they lied about that. They're probably lying about this thing too. At the very least, we need to revisit 9/11, rethink 9/11, to go with the campaign slogan, and have a new investigation, because I really believe that would change everything. And I sort of wanted to ask you guys too, because this kind of moves into one of my other questions, is how would you describe 9/11 and its relevance to the world today? Because so many times I hear people say, oh, that was 14 years ago. Why do you still care about 9/11? Look at everything else that's going on. Why aren't you paying attention to that? Why don't you just let 9/11 go? Why are you guys still so focused on 9/11 after 14 years?
Well, and we've been asked that question. We were asked that question about Waco as well. My answer to that is, what if you knew that the next 9/11 was going to happen 1 year from today, and that it was going to kill not 3,000 people, but 10 or 100,000 or 1 million people? What would you be doing with this moment, the next week, the next 12 months? You would be doing a lot of things different. Well, the answer to your question is, why does 9/11 still matter? Because 9/11 will happen again. False flags are happening all over this country and all over this world. They're small ones, but I guarantee you, if we do not get organized, if we don't build our numbers and get coherent, if we don't unify and fight back and stop the progression toward this, it's going to happen again. That's why it's still relevant.
What do you have to say about that, Stu?
Well, I would remind people, when those planes hit the World Trade Center towers, there were people working there that had to make a decision to jump out the window or burn to death. And that if they're saying, why are you still looking at that? I say, well, do you know about Building 7? Well, that we need to move on. Move on to what? What, a football game? Move on to what, the Kardashians or something? So let's just stick with. Let's take a look at what I'm looking at. You know, that's what I do. Why am I concerned about this? Because people had to jump out a window because firefighters were murdered that day. They would not have gone into those buildings if they knew they were going to come down. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. So why is it relevant? Because it's the 24/7 excuse for everything tyranny. And that is why we're at war, bombing Iraq. They tried to blame Iraq for it. That was a lie. We all knew it was a lie. It was exposed as a lie. beforehand, and they attacked Iraq anyway. And now in Dallas, they built a library for George W. Bush here in Dallas. So, but of course, that's where Kennedy was ended as well. So I won't get into that, but it's still relevant. Of course, it's relevant. It's the most important aspect in American history because it's the 24/7 excuse for everything tyranny.
Right, and it's one of those things that at some point, I forgot what the name of this genre of fiction is, but it's a type of historical fiction where they change one aspect of history. Like, for instance, what if the South won the Civil War instead, or if the Nazis won World War II, and they set it in that time frame. Or that kind of world where that one thing had been different, and everything is different as a result of it. And this is one of those events. What if 9/11 had never happened? What would America be like? So the fact that people are starting to now make YouTube videos about that and starting to write about this shows just how important that event was and how much the history has changed as we have been pushed into this post 9/11 world. And everything that's going on right now had 9/11 as a springboard. And so 9/11, as I've said many times, pulls the rug out from under everything that's bothering us right now. 9/11 Truth does. The science of the building demolitions in New York. That's why it's important to hit on that one fact. Keep on driving at it because that is the weak spot. That is what is going to make the big angry giant go down. So you're absolutely right about that. And people died that day, too. For the families of those people who had to jump out the windows or stay inside and burned to death. That 9/11 is not 14 years ago. I would imagine they probably lived that every day of their lives. So we owe the victims justice, too. And in the end of the show here, I always ask this of guests, or often ask this of guests, any final thoughts that you guys have, and also advice that you can give our audience on small things done well every day, little things that you can do, the audience can do, to get the word out that doesn't require a lot of effort, just, a little bit of inertia to inform the general public about this issue. So I guess we'll start with Stu. It's kind of a loaded question, but final thoughts and what can people do?
Okay, well, you know what? I don't think there's a silver bullet to anything. I mean, we've been searching for that. The Lone Ranger had them, but don't think there's a superhero going to come to our rescue. We, the people, have to be the change we want to see in the world. We are the ones that are going to make a difference and wake people up. Now, a lot of people don't want to hear it, so we move on. But I don't know what else to do. I can't just look the other way. I never did, but I can't look the other way at what happened to the Branch Davidians in Waco and what happened to Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya and Syria and World War I and Pearl Harbor. And the list just goes on and on and on. But stick with 9/11. I can't think of anything more important than 9/11 because your whole world opens up to the illusion, the matrix with 9/11 more than anything I can think of. And really, contact us on tx911truth.us if you will, and just say hi, and try to find a local group. Get on the A&E website, donate something if you can to A&E's efforts, and volunteer if you got an hour. Do something. Every little thing we do makes a difference, and we're not going to quit. And you know what? They may blow up the entire world. That may happen. But we can know that we did the best we could with what we knew, and we know what the truth is. And momentum is huge. It's really growing again. And it was real popular back in 2006, 2007, and then Obama and Ron Paul got people distracted. But you know what? The momentum's growing again. Pat?
Well, as for me, I would just say, for last words, we're aware of a lot of ugly, hateful things going on in the world, and that happened on 9/11. And it's real easy to stay focused on the negative. And Stuart and I both continuously make efforts to pull ourselves out of the negativity and visualize what we want the world to be. We can't hit a target if we don't know what it looks like, and obviously the idea is that we want to be done with this. We want the trials to begin, and we want the prosecutions to happen, punishment to take place. We want the corrections to be made and restoration of our Constitution. And we want our America back. So we think it's really important when you hear bad news or when you start dwelling on negative things that you stop yourself. And yes, you have to make the corrections. You have to take the actions that can fix that. But then we need to stop and think, what is the desired alternative to this latest bad thing, and put that kind of energy out there. Kind of, you talk about painting the A&E message over other kinds of things. This is kind of painting what we want the world to look like when it's done right, over top of all these this other landscape that we're stuck with right now. We want to be able to tell the universe what we want. We need to put in our order.
Guys, those are great words to end it by. Good luck with what you guys are doing out there in your neck of the woods, and we're going to keep people informed on what you are doing, what the local action groups are doing. But Stu Nelson, Pat O'Connell, thank you so much for coming on 9/11 Free Fall.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Andy. It's been great. Keep up the good work.
This program's on every Thursday night on No Lies Radio at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. You can also download MP3s of this show from the Internet Archive by going to 911freefall.com. This is Andy Steele saying have a great week and good luck.